संसारदावा नललीढलोखा त्रणाय कारुण्यघन घना त्वम् प्राप्तस्य कल्याणगुणार्णवस्य वन्दे गुरो श्रीचरणारविन्दम् महाप्रभु की तन नृत्य गीता वादित्रमाध्यान् मनसोरसेना रोमाञ्चकम्पा श्रुतरङ्गबाजो वन्दे गुरो श्रीचरणारविन्दम् श्रीविग्रहाराधननित्यनाना शृङ्गारतान्मन्दिरमजनादो युक्तश्च भक्तंश्च नियुञ्जतोऽपि वन्दे गुरो श्रीचरणारविन्दम् चतुर्विधा श्रीभगवत्प्रसादो स्वदन्नतृप्तान् हरिभक्तसङ्घम् कृत्वैव तृप्तिं भजत सदैव वन्दे गुरो श्रीचरणारविन्दम् श्रीराधिका माधवयोरपारा माधुर्यलीला गुणरूपनाम्नाम् प्रतिक्षण स्वधनलोलुपस्य वन्दे गुरो श्रीचरणारविन्दम् 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 निकुञ्जयोनो रतिकेलिसिद्धय यायालिभिर्युक्तिरपेक्षणीया तत्रातिदाक्षाततिवल्लभस्य वन्दे गुरो श्रीचरणारविन्दम् साक्षाधरित्वेन समस्तशास्त्रैर्युक्तस्तथा भाव्यत एव शाब्दी किन्तु प्रभुर्या प्रियैव तस्य वन्दे गुरु श्रीचरणरविन्दम् यस्य प्रसादाद् भगवत्प्रसादो यस्य प्रसादा न गति कुतोऽपि यस्य ध्यायन्तु वंस्तस्य यशस्विसन्ध्यां वन्दे गुरो श्रीचरणरविन्दम् 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 मा ॐ विष्णुपदाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिनिति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यादिसतानिने जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद चैतन्य नित्यानंद जय श्री कृष्ण Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Chaitanya Nityananda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Nila Madhav Radha Nila Madhav Shri Radhe. Jaya Radha Nila Madhav Radha Nila Madhav Shri Radhe. Jaya Jagannatha Jaya Baladeva Jaya Subhadra Jaya Sudarshan Chakra. Jaya Sitaram 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 Jaya Lakshman Hanuman. Jaya Lakshmi Narasimha Jaya Lakshmi Narasimha Lakshmi Narasimha Jaya Lakshmi Narasimha. Jaya Gauranitai 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 Jaya Gauranitai. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Gurudev 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 Jaya Jaya Gurudev. Nitai Gaura Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Nitai Gaura Hari Bol.
Namaste Narasimhaya. Namaste Narasimhaya. Praladadaine Hiranyakashipurvakshaha Shilatan khana khalaye Hito narsimha parato narsimho Yato yato yami tato narsimha Bahir narsimha hridaye narsimho Narasimhamadim sharanam prapade Tava kara kamalavare nakham adbhuta shringam dalita hiranyakashipu tanu bringam kesavadirta narhari rupa jai jagadish hare jai jagadish hare jai jagadish hare केशवदिरता नरहरि रूपा जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जयो नरसिंहदेव जयो नरसिंहदेव जयो नरसिंहदेव जयो नरसिंहदेव जयो भक्त प्रहलाद जयो भक्त प्रहलाद जयो भक्त प्रहलाद जयो प्रहलाद महाराज जय जय प्रभुपाद 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 जय जय प्रभुपाद जय जय गुरुदेव 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 जय जय गुरुदेव कोटि विघ्न विशासन शिल सिमदेव भगवान की, प्रहलाद महाराज की, गौर प्रेमानंदे।
Namo Namaha Tulasi Krishna Preyasi Namo Namaha Radha Krishna Seva Pabo Ehi Abhilashi Radha Krishna Seva Pabo Ehi Abhilashi Ye tomar sharan loy Tara vanch purna hoy Kripa kori koro tare Vrindavana basi Moraye Abhilash Vilas kunje diyo vas Nayane heri bosada Yugal ruparasi Ei nivedana dharo Sakiranugata koro Sevadikara diye Koro nijadasi दीना कृष्ण दासे को यही न मोरा होई दीन कृष्ण दासे को यही न मोरा होई श्री राधा गोविंद प्रेमे सदा ये नवासी श्री राधा गोविंद प्रेमे सदा ये नवासी तुलसी कृष्ण प्रेयसी नमो नमः तुलसी कृष्ण प्रेयसी नमो नमः यानि कानि च पापानि ब्रह्महत्याधिकानि च तानि तानि प्रणश्यन्ति प्रदक्षिण पदे पदे यानि कानि च पापानि ब्रह्महत्याधिकानि च तानि तानि प्रणश्यन्ति प्रदक्षिण पदे पदे यानि कानि च पापानि ब्रह्महत्याधिकानि च तानि तानि प्रणश्यन्ति प्रदक्षिण पदे पदे हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा कृष्णा हरे 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 राम 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 जय तुलसी महारानी जय वृंदा देवी जय तुलसी महारानी जय वृंदा देवी जय वृंदे जय वृंदे जय वृंदे जय श्री वृंदे जय वृंदे जय वृंदे जय वृंदे जय श्री वृंदे नित्य गौर हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल नित्य गौर हरि बोल नित्य गौर हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल नित्य गौर हरि बोल वृंदाय तुलसीदेवाय प्रियाय केशवस्य च भक्ति प्रददेवी सदेवताय नमो नमः beloved of Krishna, I bow before you again and again. Shri Radha and Krishna, who takes care of you as his wishes fulfill. Bestowing your mercy upon him, you make him a resident of Shri Vrindavan Dham. And he said, grant me residence in the pleasure groves of Shri Vrindavan Dham. Thus, within my vision, I will always behold the beautiful pastimes of Radha and Krishna.
Ruta Papa Siddhanta Dwanta Harine, Shoraya Shavaya Yamate, Palambara Sambade, Palambara Namaha, Yartanandanamine, Gora Shakti Swarupaya, Rupanuka Varayate, Bhava Bhumeston Nidesta Sajjanapuna, Vaishnava Savabhuma Sri Jagannathaya Namaha, Matsakalpatra Bhischa Kripa Sindhu Vyebicha, Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha, Namo Mahabudanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate, Krishna Krishna Chaitanya Namne Guru Tuse Namaha, Namaha Krishna Swarupakam Bhaktavataram Bhaktakam Namami Bhakta Saktikam. Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Jayatam Suratur Pangur Mamu Manda Matergati Matsarvasvapadam Bhujo Radha Madana Mohano Divyat Bindaranya Kalpadrumadaha Shimad Ratnagara Simhasanostato Shimad Radha Shiva Govinda Devo Prestadi Bhise Vimano Smarami Shiman Rasa Rasaram Bhivam Sivata Tatastita Karsan Venuswanir Gopir Gopinatak Striyestuna Tapta Kanchana Korangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhanu Stute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shirvaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jai Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Shrimad Bhagavatam Grantaraj Ki Jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharine Nirvisesa Sunyavadi Paskatya Tesatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. So we're continuing reading the lecture Prabhupada gave the day after Gaur Purnima. And it's a very interesting lecture. So we covered part of it yesterday, so now we'll finish it today. So Prabhupada says, so there are different kinds of philosophies in the world. But Lord Chaitanya's philosophy is the super philosophy. Super philosophy means, why super philosophy? Just like Lord Buddha's philosophy is, there is no acknowledgement of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So Buddha was asked, is there God? And he didn't answer the question. So there's no concept of Supreme Personality of Godhead in Buddhism. There's Buddha himself, but he never claimed he was God. So Buddhism is basically, a way for self-improvement, but it does not accept the existence of the spiritual world or God. So in other words, you can become a Buddha. But what does that mean exactly? Well, you become nonviolent and you don't eat meat, things like that. And you try and come to the mode of goodness. But you deny the existence of a personality of Godhead. And at the same time, you deny the existence of yourself as being a person. Because Buddhism is only concerned with the body. So the whole point is, if you eliminate the body, then there's no suffering. So that's what they're trying to do. And so they never reach the spiritual world. They don't reach the Brahma Jyoti like the possibilities given to the Mayavadis to reach the Brahma Jyoti. They at the most attain the flip side of material nature, which is there's vyakta is the manifest material nature, and avyakta is the unmanifest material nature. That's what they achieve. So it's not really spiritual; it's material. And the modern scientists are very similar to the Buddhists. They don't accept the existence of a spiritual world or God, and they just say there's a body. That's it, and matter. What? Yeah, they don't accept. No. They don't accept they have a mind. Yeah. So they try and deconstruct the body. So water goes to water, air goes to air, fire goes to fire, earth goes to earth, and sky goes to sky. So now there's no more suffering because you don't exist. You say.
They don't believe in incarnation also.
Oh, they do.
How would they believe in incarnation? Because if everything goes back.
No, because everything can go back. That's the whole point. Sometimes it goes, into the avyakta, and sometimes it's manifest. They believe in vyakta and avyakta, but they don't believe in the spiritual world. They don't believe in God. They don't believe that the individual is eternal. And to make it plausible, something that's believable, they talk about, compassion and things like that. So, but actually, it's a very materialistic religion. So one time, I organized this program where the leaders of the Buddhist movement in France met with Srila Prabhupada when Prabhupada came to Paris. And at one point, there was these newspaper people there also. So, they saw the Buddhists. They were sitting, listening to Prabhupada, and Prabhupada was speaking Krishna consciousness philosophy. So one newspaper guy, he said, can we ask you, your honor, and he said, can we ask you a question? What's the difference between you and the Buddhists? Prabhupada right away said, the difference is they don't believe Buddha is God. We do. So that was like brilliant statement by Prabhupada. Yeah. And that's a fact. They don't believe Buddha is God. But we do believe. We know he's incarnation Krishna. Okay, so then so Prabhupada is saying here that Lord Chaitanya's philosophy is the super philosophy. Super philosophy. There is no acknowledgement of the Supreme Personality Godhead or any God in Buddhism. His philosophy is this: the body, this present condition, is a combination of matter. So you dismantle the matter by meditation. You disperse the matter. Let the earth go to the earth, let the water go to water, let fire go to fire, let ether go to ether, and air go to air, because this is a combination of earth, water, fire, and so forth. So disperse it. When you go to the total water, total earth, total air, total fire, then just like you prepare a doll, how do you make a doll? You take some earth, mix it with some water, you dry it in the air, then you bake it in an oven. They have these pottery ovens, and now you have a doll, and then you paint it and dress it and so forth. It becomes a doll. So that means you take all the help of all these ingredients, and it appears. Similarly, this body has appeared in that way by combination. So, if the doll is broken, then in due course of time, it mixes again. Dust thou art, dust thou beest. In other words, this is a quote from the Bible. It says that, we all started by being dust, and we'll go back to being dust, right? So, therefore, so everyone is trying that. I shall become happy in this way. No, actually it says, because we are all concerned with the feelings of consciousness or of happiness and distress, everyone is embarrassed. Everyone is trying that I shall become happy in this way. So that means he is feeling distress. So according to Lord Buddha's philosophy, these feelings of happiness and distress is due to this combination of matter. So you dismantle this matter or material, there will be no more distress and nirvana. Finish. Nirvana means finish. No more movement of the mind, no more desires, no more thinking, no more you. See? But I mean to say, further development. So that's Buddhist philosophy. Then Sankara came. So what was Sankara's, let's say, what did he do? So Sankara says, matter is not all. This is false. Matter has grown on the platform of spirit. So that's his addition, right? Brahma Satyam Jagan Mithya. He said that only Brahman is real and the material world is unreal. And the Vaishnava, so that's Sankara's addition, or that's what he brought to the table. The Buddhists, they say there's only matter. Sankara says, no, there's spirit. There is a soul, but it's only one soul. It's Brahman. So his understanding is incomplete also, very incomplete. But at least it's spiritual, because he's talking about the Brahmajyoti, right? But he's not giving a clear understanding of the Brahmajyoti. So then the Vaishnavas come. Now what do they say? The Vaishnavas say, yes, spirit is the basic principle. Matter is false, that's all right, but the spirit is not void. There is spiritual construction. That's what Sankara would reject. He said, what? Spiritual rejection? No, there's not. There's just Brahman, that's all. So, is the material world false? Well, it's not false, but it's temporary. Vaishnavas don't say it's false, but it's temporary. But what do the Vaishnavas say is false? The desire or the attempt to be happy in the material world, that is false. Because the material world is a place of suffering. Whatever happiness you feel is a trick of the mind and body to keep you in the clutches of Maya. You see, so the Vaishnava doesn't say that the material world is false. The Vaishnava says, how can it be completely false when it's the inferior spiritual energy of Krishna? But it goes through two stages. Sometimes it's visible, sometimes it's not visible. Therefore, in that sense, nothing made out of matter in the material world is permanent. The matter itself is permanent, but the forms are not permanent. Therefore, it becomes illusory when the material nature disappears. It puts a person in an illusion. Just like this one man in Turkey, he had, I don't know, how many buildings did he own? Like 30 buildings. He was a multimillionaire. Every one of those buildings collapsed. Every one collapsed. And because of that, he became homeless. He lost everything in a matter of an hour or two. Right? So there were two earthquakes. Each earthquake only lasted maybe a minute, but there was an hour difference between the two earthquakes. Right? So in that time, he lost everything, and he ended up homeless and hopeless. Right? You see how easy it is to be put into total illusion, right? And he's in total illusion right now because he used to own 30 buildings. Means he was a multimillionaire, right? Okay, so so Sankara is adding something that Buddha didn't have, and he's saying, no. He's saying, Brahma Satyam Jagan Mitya. The material matter is illusory, and only the Brahman exists. And Buddha was saying, look, there's only matter, but there's no individual soul. Well, Sankara also says there's no individual soul. There's only one soul, there's Brahman. But Buddha doesn't accept the existence of a soul even, right? He doesn't accept even the existence of a mind. Because if you say I have a mind, right away the question is, oh, you have a mind? That means you're a person. So they have to reject the existence of the mind also. Okay. So then the Vaishnavas come. And they say, yeah, there is spirit, but there's Krishna, and then there's all the jivas. Now that is rejected by Sankara and Buddha. And he says that the spirit is the basic principle. Matter is sometimes manifest, sometimes not manifest. So, and then the attempt to be happy in the material world is the real illusion. And we can see that. I mean, who is happy? Everybody at some point or other is suffering. They have to suffer old age, disease, and death. So you cannot say it's a happy place. Happy place is the spiritual world, where there's no birth, death, old age, disease. And good news for everyone, you don't have to reproduce. Everyone's eternal. Even more good news, if you want to reproduce, you don't need a wife. The husband can do it on his own. Just like Krishna can do it, because he has this transcendental body. Okay. So, but what the Vaishnavas also say that in the material world there is spiritual construction. I mean, the spiritual world is spiritual construction. Just like in the material world, there is material construction. In the spiritual world, there is spiritual construction. So this would be rejected by Sankaracharya and the Buddhists. So that spiritual construction is not known to other philosophers than the Vaishnavas. Only the Vaishnavas know about the spiritual construction going on in the spiritual world. Okay, now we're going to discuss that. So Prabhupada said, so Lord Chaitanya's philosophy, that is the greatest contribution to the world, that these living entities who are hankering after happiness by different processes, by material process, by philosophical process, by mental concoction or mental process, they are trying, and Lord Krishna also said they are trying, but that happiness is available when your senses or consciousness are pure. The same philosophy is also Lord Chaitanya's philosophy. He says that Jivera Swarupahaya Nitya Krishna Dasa. What is the pure consciousness? Krishna said that happiness can be achieved in pure consciousness, or when your senses are transcendental. He gave a hint. Not only hint, he practically suggested that you simply surrender unto me. Okay, so Lord Chaitanya said the same thing. Lord Krishna said, as the Supreme Lord, he commended. Okay, look that word up. Commended. Commended, I don't think it's a command. No, it's not a command. It's more of a request. Yeah?
Praise formally or officially?
What?
Praise?
Praise?
Praise.
Praise formally or
Wait a minute.
officially?
Phrase or
Praised.
praised?
Praise.
Okay.
Formally or officially. Or the second meaning is present as suitable for approval or acceptance.
You see, it's not an order. It's not commanded. Commend means he's suggesting it, that this is the right thing to do. You see how Prabhupada chose the right word? Now, the difference is Krishna commanded, but Lord Chaitanya is not commanding, he's commended. You see, it's very important to understand English. You said commanded, right, Prabhu? Prabhu, you said commanded, right? No, it's commended. Commended means they're suggesting it. This is the right. Krishna's suggesting it's the right thing to do.
Recommend, other word is recommend.
Okay, recommend, but that's not an order. See,
it's not.
command is an order.
Yeah.
You see how Prabhupada is very, very precise. He chose the correct English word. Why? Krishna commands, but Lord Chaitanya commends. That's amazing. So, Lord Chaitanya said the same thing. Lord Krishna said, as the Supreme Lord, he commended. He has got the commanding power because he is the Supreme God, that you should surrender unto me. Just like some superior, the teacher or father or king says, you must do it. But there is force. A state says, you must do it. But if you do not do it, then there is force, just like this draft board. They are demanding that you must join the army. If you don't join, there will be force, and you will be forcibly joined after that. So here in the Krishna's order, because he is Krishna, the Supreme Lord, there is no force. That voluntary, he says, this is life, you surrender unto me. But he could force Arjuna to surrender, or anybody, because he is the Supreme Lord. But that force he does not apply because he has given us little independence. Okay, so I made a little mistake. Krishna has the power of commanding, but he's not commanding, he's commending. This is what you should do. And Lord Chaitanya also, he is not commanding, he's commending. He's saying you should do this. This is good for you. He's praising it, or recommending it. Okay, why? Because Krishna has given every jiva limited free will. So if he commands it, forces it, then he would be denying the jiva free will. Now, why is that? Because if you force someone, then there's no love. You can commend someone. You say, well, look, it's better to be like this. And if they choose to develop love for Krishna, then there is love. You can't get love by command. You can only get it by suggestion. So if you're forced to love Krishna, then there's not going to be any love. So Krishna is looking for the love, and he's willing to reciprocate that love. So Lord Chaitanya's philosophy, that is the greatest contribution to the world. Okay, I'm sorry. So, but Krishna could force Arjuna to surrender, or anybody, because he is the Supreme Lord. But that force he does not apply because he has given us little independence. Therefore, if he forces, then his gift of independence is misused from his side. We are misusing our gift of independence. But for that reason, Krishna cannot withdraw your independence. Just like you are an independent citizen. If somebody misuses that independence, he becomes a criminal. But the independence continues. You are a criminal, you are punished, again you are set free. This means you are given, again, independence. But again, if you misuse, then again you are put into prison. Similarly, if the state cannot withdraw your independence, then what is the meaning of this independence? In other words, if the state cannot stop you from having limited independence, that's right, that means you have it. But if they can take away your independence, that means you don't have it. So Krishna is not taking away our limited independence. Now that's dangerous, because that means, because we have an eternal soul, we could eternally stay in the material world by making the same mistakes over and over again. Just like there are people that spend most of their life in jail. Even when they get out, they purposely commit a crime so they can go back to. Why don't you look that up?
Repeat offenders.
Huh?
Repeat offenders just to go back to jail.
Yeah, they purposely commit an offense so they can go back to jail. Because they can't deal with the material world outside, but they can deal with it on the inside. And they like it on the inside. Not everybody, but some sickos are like that. While you're looking, I'm going to get something I forgot to bring. I'll be right back. If you remember yesterday, we talked about class distinctions in the Soviet Union.
Yes.
Good. So I found what I was looking for. And it says, since 1917, the Soviet Union has transformed itself from a predominantly agricultural, rural, and developing capitalist society into an industrial, urban, socialist society. Okay, what does it mean, socialist? That means that the government owns everything. There's very limited people owning things. And they own the banks, they own the factories, they own everything. And you're just working for the government. Whereas in capitalism, you have private ownership. The laws protect your private ownership. And, okay, so, its social structure developed from the imposition of a centralist Marxist state on a geographically ethnically and culturally diverse population. In other words, they had many different people, races and ethnicities in the Soviet Union, but they had central control of everything. The government had central control. And they were trying to create a communist state. They never really achieved that. Communist means the people are the owners. Socialist means the government is the owner, right? So they never got to the pure consciousness, pure communism. Western sociologists generally categorize Soviet society into four major socio-occupational groupings. There it is. Four major socio-occupational groupings. One, the political governmental elite and cultural and scientific intelligentsia. That's two. Three, the white-collar workers. And four, blue-collar workers, which includes the peasants and other agricultural workers. There you go. You have four classes. You see? Why? Because Krishna said you cannot eliminate these four classes because he created them. See, man did not create those classes. Krishna created them. So even though they did everything possible to eliminate those four classes, now you're going to hear what it says here. Soviet ideology held that the Soviet society consisted solely of two non-antagonistic classes, workers and peasants. In other words, basically one class, all Sudras, right? Those engaged in non-manual labor, from bookkeepers to party functionaries, formed strata in both classes. So in other words, they only wanted one class, basically. Everyone's a Sudra, right? But they ended up with four classes anyway. You see, you have to see the correlation between what Krishna says and what actually happens in society. Right? They tried their best to eliminate all the classes, and it didn't work, no matter how hard they tried. Unlike in the West, private property played no role in social stratification, right? Because people didn't own anything. And income generally was a consequence of social position, not its determinant. In other words, you didn't become rich because you worked hard and created a business. You were not allowed to have a business. There were no individual businesses. There were factories, but the factories were not owned by the people. The factories there were managers in the factories, but they didn't own the factory. The government owned everything, and it controlled everything. But there was a way to make some, see, the reason why they failed to make one class is because if you joined the Soviet party, you were able to have more benefits than other people. So not everybody became a member of the Soviet party. But the ones that did, they got better houses, and they developed into these four classes. See? This is very interesting. So that you had the intellectuals, you had the party members, you had the white-collar workers, and then you had the Sudras and the peasants. Right? Now, they only wanted one class. That was the Sudras and the peasants working cooperatively, right? But it ended up four classes. So I won't read all of this, but it's very interesting. You see how you cannot go against what Krishna says. It's impossible. Okay. So we come back to this now. It says, so Lord Chaitanya's philosophy, that is the greatest contribution to the world, that these living entities who are hankering after happiness by a different process, by material process, by philosophical process, by mental concoction, or mental process. They are trying. And Lord Krishna also said they are trying. But that happiness is available when your senses or consciousness are pure, not by material consciousness. Right? The same philosophy is also Lord Chaitanya's philosophy. He says that Jivera Swarupahaya Nitya Krishna Dasa. What is the pure consciousness? Krishna said that happiness can be achieved in pure consciousness, or when your senses are transcendental. He gave a hint. Not only hint, he practically suggested that you simply surrender unto me. So Lord Chaitanya said the same thing. Lord Krishna said, as the Supreme Lord, he commended, not commanded. He commended, he suggested, he praised, in other words, said, this is the best thing you can do, right? But he didn't force anyone, neither Krishna nor Lord Chaitanya. Although Krishna had the power to force everyone, but he didn't do it. Huh? Well, okay, I'll show you that verse, yeah. At the end, yes. Yeah, I was going to read that. Okay, so he says, verse number 72, before that. Okay. First of all, he says, before the last verse, if you do not act according to my direction and do not fight, then you will be falsely directed by your nature. You will have to be engaged in warfare. Under illusion, you are now declining to act according to my direction, but compelled by the work born of your own nature, you will act all the same, O son of Kunti. Then he says, O son of Partha, O conqueror of wealth, have you heard this with an attentive mind? And are your ignorance and illusions now dispelled? Yeah. Right. So then Arjuna says, yes, I have heard, and now I'm convinced. So in the purport to 1872, 18th chapter, 72nd verse, the Lord was acting as the spiritual master of Arjuna. Therefore, it was his duty to inquire from Arjuna whether he understood the whole Bhagavad Gita in its proper perspective. If not, the Lord was ready to re-explain any point or the whole Bhagavad Gita if so required. Actually, anyone who hears Bhagavad Gita from a bona fide spiritual master like Krishna or his representative will find that all his ignorance is dispelled. Bhagavad Gita is not an ordinary book. It's written by a poet or a fiction writer. It is spoken by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Any person fortunate enough to hear these teachings from Krishna or from his bona fide spiritual representative is sure to become a liberated person and get out of the darkness of ignorance. Yeah. Okay, so anyway, let's go back to his, So it says, but he could force Arjuna to surrender, or anybody, because he's the Supreme Lord. But that force he does not apply because he has given us little independence. Therefore, if he forces, then his gift of independence is misused from his side. We are misusing that gift of independence from our side by not surrendering. Krishna cannot withdraw your independence, just like you are an independent citizen. If somebody misuses that independence, he becomes a criminal. But still, the independence continues. You are a criminal, you are punished, again, you're set free. That means you are given again independence. But again, if you misuse it, then again you are put into prison. Similarly, if the state cannot withdraw your independence, then what is the meaning of this independent country? How God can withdraw the independence he has given to you? It's not possible, because he's promised it. That he will not withdraw. It is up to you to use your independence properly. That proper use of independence is to surrender unto Krishna. So this rhetorical question is, what is the meaning of this independent country? Well, that's the point. I mean, everyone says life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. In other words, the country is an independent country. Well, there's a danger there. Just like there's a danger for us having limited independence. We can make the wrong decisions eternally because we have an eternal soul and stay prisoners of the material world and suffer. Or we can choose to surrender to Krishna at any time. And by the way, surrender to Krishna is not controlled by the laws of nature, by karma. You could be the worst person, the most sinful person in the world. If you decide to surrender to Krishna, Krishna will accept you. It's not controlled by karma. Thank God. So we are suffering. We are manufacturing so many philosophical concepts. But the actual position is, that is the statement of Bhagavad Gita, that we are part and parcel of Krishna, God. We are not working according to our particular duty, just like this finger is part and parcel of my body. It has got a particular duty to serve the whole body. When it is unable to do it, it is painful. The physician or the surgeon says that this finger should be amputated. Otherwise, it will create disturbance to the whole body. Similarly, we are all part and parcel of the Supreme Whole, but not surrendering unto him. Misusing our independence, we are giving pain to the Supreme Lord. Therefore he comes, you surrender. Don't give me pain. You just abide by my order. That will give me pleasure. You will be happy. That state of consciousness, to abide by the order of Krishna, is Krishna consciousness. That's all. So Krishna comes personally to canvas, to basically commend people, not command, commend, suggest to them, or highly recommend to them, please surrender unto me. That is not your proper order of life. You are misusing your independence. This is Krishna speaking. This is not the proper way of organizing your life. You are misusing your independence for sense gratification and wandering through various types of transmigration of bodies, sometimes human body, sometimes dog's body, sometimes cat's body, sometimes demigod's body, sometimes rich body, sometimes poor body. So you stop this business. Krishna says, Sarvadharmam Purityaja. You have manufactured so many duties. That duties means you are manufacturing so many bodies. That's all. See, now that's a big statement. These duties that we think that we have, they're actually manufacturing the next body that we have. So if I think, oh, this is my duty, I've got to have sense gratification, and therefore I'm going to go to Las Vegas, or to Disneyland, or to Yosemite Park, and enjoy. You know, and in America, people always say, enjoy. Right? You ever hear people say like that? Enjoy. All the time. So, yeah, but that enjoy means you're making your next body. Now, how are you going to enjoy? You're going to drink. You're going to have sense gratification. You're going to, who knows what you're going to do? Look what's happening in Mexico now, right? Just recently, as like 2 days ago, 4 Americans were kidnapped by the bandidos, the drug parties, and 2 of them were murdered. They stopped them in the middle of the day, took them out of their cars, kidnapped them, killed 2 of them, and let 2 go. A girl just went there, a Canadian girl just went there with her boyfriend. She was dead in like an hour or 2, killed in her hotel room. Not by her boyfriend. Or maybe, I don't know. But so Mexico has become a very dangerous place. Why? Because it's controlled by the cartels. They're controlling the government. That's how powerful they've become. Right? And they have military class weapons, rockets and all kinds of things they have. Right? The government has a very difficult time trying to control them. Right? Okay, so we see, so many Americans go to Mexico for vacation, and not many of them, but a certain number are murdered now. So it's in the newspaper all the time. Okay, so here it says, we're not working according to our particular duty. And then he gives the example of the finger. If the finger gets contaminated or becomes sick, sometimes the doctor says, we got to cut your finger off because it'll make the rest of the body sick. So when it's unable to do it, in other words, do its duty, it is painful. The physician or the surgeon says that this finger should be amputated. Otherwise, it would create disturbance to the whole body. That happened to a friend of mine. He was a fanatic, so-called fanatic person. So he had some kind of infection in his finger, so he kept putting clay on it. Now, clay would pull out toxins, but the problem was he kept putting it on the same finger all the time. The clay was also pulling toxins out from the rest of the body, and they all accumulated in the finger that became so, let's say, contaminated that they had to cut his finger off. Otherwise, he could poison his whole body. So we see, yeah, clay does pull toxins out, but it has to. I mean, if you don't have a cut or something to release the toxins, it all collects at that at the end of the finger, and it becomes very toxic. Now, he didn't realize that. So there's ways of using clay. Usually what you do is, let's say you have a problem, let's say on this side of your body. So you put clay here, but you also put clay here so that it doesn't all collect in one place, all the toxins. Anyway, it's just an interesting thing to know. So he says, so Krishna is saying, look, you surrender unto me. Don't give me pain. You just abide by my order. That will give me pleasure. You will be happy also. That state of consciousness, to abide by the order of Krishna, is Krishna consciousness. That's all. So Krishna comes personally to canvass that this is not your proper order of life or way of life. You are misusing your independence for sense gratification and wandering through various types of transmigration of bodies. Sometimes human bodies, sometimes dogs' bodies, sometimes cats' bodies, sometimes demigods' bodies, sometimes rich bodies, sometimes poor body. So you stop this business. Krishna says, Sarvadharma Prityaja, you have manufactured so many duties that those duties means you are manufacturing so many bodies, that's all. So we got to be careful about what our duties are. And everybody has particular duties. Because those duties means we're manufacturing the next bodies that we will get. Why you have got different types of bodies? We have manufactured it ourselves. God has given us facility. I wanted to become such and such. He has given us facilities. All right, you become such and such. If I want to become a tiger, God will give me all the facilities to become a tiger. He will give me facilities, paws, nails, teeth, so that immediately I can capture any animal, and with the instruments which He has provided within my body, I can immediately scratch it into pieces and eat it raw. Similarly, you will find you are the cranes. Similarly, you will see the cranes. Cranes are birds with big beak. They have big becks. Why? Because they have to catch fish from within the water. So the beak must be very long. So there is facility. The hog has got different mouth because he has to eat stool. So a different kind of body for the hog. So these bodies means we have manufactured according to our different mentality. Krishna says that you stop all this business. Simply you are migrating or transmigrating from one body to another or in one planet to another. That will not make you happy. Sarvadharmam, you just surrender unto me because you are meant, your original creation is meant for serving me. Just like this body. When this body was made in the womb of my mother, it was just like a small pea. And from that pea, different holes came out. Then hand came out of one hole, leg came out of another hole, fingers came out. So this finger was created because I require the service of the fingers. Suppose if I want to press something, if there is no nail, then I cannot press. It is so nicely manufactured by my energy, by my desire, and nature supplying me ingredients. It is manufactured. So you are manufacturing different bodies, but our real sense is covered. So that transcendental sense can be discovered when we give up this material sense gratificatory process by creating different kinds of bodies. So this is very interesting. This is also explained in Bhagavad Gita, 15th chapter, 8th verse. Sarinam yad avapnoti yaschapi utkramatishvara grihit vaitani samyati vayur gandan ivasayat. The living entity in the material world carries his different conceptions of life from one body to another, as the air carries aromas. Thus he takes one kind of body and again quits it to take another. And the purport, Prabhupada says, here the living entity is described as Ishvara. The controller of his own body. If he likes, he can change his body to a higher grade, and if he likes, he can move to a lower class. Minute independence is there. The change his body undergoes depends upon him. At the time of death, the consciousness he has created will carry him on to the next type of body. If he has made his consciousness like that of a cat or dog, he is sure to change to a cat or dog's body. And if he has fixed his consciousness on godly qualities, he will change into the form of a demigod. And if he is in Krishna consciousness, he'll be transferred to Krishna Loka in the spiritual world and will associate with Krishna. It is a false claim that after annihilation of this body, everything is finished. The individual soul is transmigrating from one body to another, and his present body and present activities are the background of his next body. One gets a different body according to karma, and he has to quit this body in due course. It is stated here that the subtle body which carries the conception of the next body develops another body in the next life. This process of transmigrating from one body to another and struggling while in the body is called karsati, or the struggle for existence. And text 9, this 15th chapter, text 9. Shotram chaksu sparsanam cha rasanam granam evacha adistaya manaschayam vishayan upasevate. The living entity, thus taking another gross body, obtains a certain type of ear, eye, tongue, nose, and sense of touch, which are grouped about the mind. He thus enjoys a particular set of sense objects. Purport. In other words, if the living entity adulterates his consciousness with the qualities of cats and dogs, in his next life he gets a cat or dog body and enjoys, meaning he suffers. Consciousness is originally pure like water, but if we mix water with a certain color, it changes. Similarly, consciousness is pure, for the spirit soul is pure, but consciousness is changed according to the association of the material qualities. Real consciousness, I'll give you an example. There was this young boy, his father, something like a devotee. He was basically a Hindu. He would always do these yagyas in his house and invite me to do them. So I met his daughter and his son. So the son was not so interested in Krishna consciousness. And so one day I saw him down on the street walking in Bellevue, and he was doing a jitterbug. You know what a jitterbug is? No. Huh? No. He was dancing like this, walking and dancing like he had some music going on in his ear, and he was dancing like this, right? I was watching him, and I said, because that music is nonsense, right? The words are nonsense. And then he was just dancing like nonsense. So, you see how, what does it say here? It says, similarly, consciousness is pure, for the spirit soul is pure, but consciousness is changed according to the association of the material qualities. Real consciousness is Krishna consciousness. When, therefore, one is situated in Krishna consciousness, he is in his pure life. But if his consciousness is adulterated by some type of material mentality, in the next life he gets a corresponding body. He does not necessarily get a human body again. He can get the body of a cat, dog, hog, demigod, or one of many other forms, for there are 8,400,000 species. So we got to be careful what we do and what we associate with, you see. So if you associate with materialistic things, you can end up eternally in the material world, right? Okay, so I guess we'll stop right there and continue tomorrow. Where
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
yes.
So there are a couple online questions, but before that, can you explain, in this lecture we read about spiritual construct and material construct. Can you a little bit elaborate what does that mean?
Material construction is, people are building houses, they're working out in the gym so that they get abs and muscles. They go and get, their hair colored. They use Botox. They're constructing things, houses, cars, businesses, their body, plastic surgery. So all those constructs are material constructs based on the body. But in the spiritual world, there's spiritual constructs. Our love for Krishna, cooking for the Lord, massaging the feet of the Lord. There's so many things. Building a beautiful altar for the Lord. So there's spiritual constructs and material constructs. So the devotee, once he discovers the process of purification of the senses, then the spiritual senses begin to function. They're no longer covered by the material senses. And then the spiritual constructs, you want to construct a temple. You want to construct a food truck to distribute prasadam. See, there's a different construction taking place now. It's everything in relationship to Krishna. So that's the difference between spiritual construction and material construction.
So is it, I mean, just for my understanding, is it related to what we have, like kind of evolution? So I'm not sure if it related to evolution. Like for example, we call material evolution and maybe spiritual evolution. And I can give you example like material evolution. Let's say some scientists came up with, okay, molecule is the smallest animal at some certain point of time. After that, few years down the line, they figured that out. Oh no, it's not a molecule, but the atom. After a few years down the line, they came to the, oh no, atom is not the smallest, maybe proton or neutron.
This is all speculation.
Yeah.
That's not construction. That's speculation.
But spiritual world, and in spiritual terms, like initially, like we are reading in the lecture, like Buddha came up with all the material conception. Everything is on material conception.
Yeah.
Then it progressed to Vaishnavism, and Vaishnavism says that okay,
To,
he added the spirit into that.
Mayavad,
Yeah.
Sankaracharya, and then you progress.
Sorry, Shankaracharya. I'm sorry. Yeah, Shankaracharya.
Yeah.
Then I mean, do you think that this is a spiritual evolution right from the basic understanding of we are from material to
wait a minute. Okay.
adding spirit?
You're mixing up progressive Krishna consciousness with construction.
Okay, yeah,
You're mixing up the two.
yeah. That's why I was thinking: are they same? Or they are different, distinct things? Actually.
Yeah, there is progressiveness in Krishna consciousness. We're seeing it. There's Buddha, there's Sankaracharya, there's Vaishnavas. So that's progressive. The construction is building sense gratification on the basis of the body, and that's material construction, and building spiritual consciousness on the basis of devotional service. That's spiritual construction. Two different things.
Yeah, and then how to distinct or how to differentiate between the progression and evolution?
Evolution. See, you have to understand. The different species were created in the beginning of time. They didn't evolve. What's evolving is the consciousness. Just like here you have, let's say, some new housing project, and they have a sign, beginning price $2 million.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you have $2 million, you can go and take a look at the houses, right? But let's say you don't have $2 million. Then you have to find another housing project. Beginning price $1 million, you see. Or beginning price $500,000. So the houses are there, but you have to choose the one that you can afford.
Mm-hmm.
So the same way, all the 8,400,000 species are created immediately in the beginning of time. Now, according to so there's an evolution of consciousness, not of bodies. That is a mistake that Darwin made. So this evolution of consciousness, you can go up and down in those 8,400,000 species because of material being overwhelmed by matter and not having any spiritual interest. Once you have the spiritual interest, then you can stop evolving through all those species and become liberated. Because now instead of contaminating your senses, you're purifying your senses, right? Instead of engaging in sense gratification, you're engaged in sense purification. At that point, your consciousness evolves to a point of surrendering completely to Krishna and being engaged in his devotional service.
So isn't that the progress, Maharaj? Like your progress to a conscious,
It's not an evolution.
yeah, not evolution, but progress. I'm
Yes.
saying it's a
Yes.
progress. So that's sort of like a subtle difference between.
What
I
is
would say.
evolving is the consciousness. It's getting either better and better or worse and worse. Right? But the forms of bodies are all there. Just like you have these houses that are $2 million. You have other houses that are $1 million. You have other houses of 500,000. All the houses are there, but you have to choose the one that you can afford. So, in the case of the body, you're going to choose a body based on your association and your desires.
So this example, what Prabhupada gave in this lecture, is called progression, not the evolution, right? From the base understanding at material level to spirit, from spirit
Yeah,
to Krishna.
When he says here, when the body was made in the womb of my mother, it was just like a small pea. And from this pea, different holes came out. And then hand came out, and leg came out, and fingers came out. Why this finger was created? Because I require the service of the fingers. Suppose if I want to press something, if there is no nail, then I cannot press. So it is so nicely manufactured. By my energy, by my desire, and nature supplying me ingredients, it is manufactured. So the seed of that manufacturing is the soul, and how the soul is influenced by the modes of material nature in previous life. You see, so what's a seed? The seed has a germ in it that can produce a banyan tree, or it can produce a plant, or it can produce a human being, right? So the soul is a seed, and how it's going to evolve depends on its previous karma and desires. Okay, so is it progressive or is it evolution? It's what you would call based on your desire. Right? You have free will, so you can desire things. Like somebody desires this Tesla, another person doesn't want a Tesla. Someone wants to be an intellectual, therefore he's not interested in making a lot of money. He's interested in studying and learning things and how to do things. He's not trying to collect a lot of money. Or he's a brahmana. Even if he gets a lot of donations, he gives most of it away. He's not interested in the money. He's interested in his spiritual activities. So it all depends on what our desires are.
So there are a couple of questions online, Maharaj.
Yeah.
So first question: does laws of material nature means three modes?
Yes, it also means yes. So when it says Daivihi esa gunamai, so that's the three laws, the three modes, the gunamai. They're supernatural forces that control our activities.
Yeah. Okay.
If
And
we surrender to Krishna, we become free of them. If we not surrendered, then we're controlled by them.
okay. The second question is: if surrendering to Krishna is not bound by laws of material nature
Yeah.
or laws of karma, then why not everyone understands Krishna consciousness?
Because they're an illusion. That's why. I mean, when I heard that surrender is not controlled by the laws of nature, I was happy. I was really happy. But that's one thing. The other thing is you actually have to surrender. So it's not enough to know that. You have to actually surrender and experience it. So that's what I did. I joined the temple and I surrendered. And I experienced it. You can know it, but not do it.
Exactly.
So,
Many people are
because Krishna is not going to interfere with your limited free will. That's what we're talking about here.
Yeah, yeah.
But
Even if
we're
in-
going to construct our next body by the duties we accept.
So what makes it?
Like the other day, not the other day, but about 4 or 5 months ago, I had to go to the Seattle Center because we had to have a booth there, right? And I was walking from the parking lot to the Seattle Center and going down this staircase, and I saw this lady that I knew. And there were like 4 men, and she was there, and she was cooking something. And the 4 men were all, they had taken fentanyl, and they were just like, like zombies, right? And then, and she was cooking the fentanyl to take herself. And I saw this. Anyway, I was in a hurry, so I should have taken a picture. It was a classical picture, if I had taken it. And I know this lady, I had to throw her out of this temple. She was a very obnoxious person. And so later on, when I came back, I had to come back because I had forgot something. She was just like the others now. She was like a zombie, like with her head down, and just it was horrible. It was like, now, how did she learn to do that? How did the others? Why do they do it?
Mm.
You see, those are decisions that they make. No one's forcing them. And she was like the mother, cooking up the fentanyl for the others. Very sick, very sad. Okay, so we'll stop right there. I'd roll.
If time permits, Maharaj, one question.
Okay, go ahead.
Hare Krishna, Maharaj. Maharaj, as you talked about Buddha,
Yeah.
so Buddha had rejected the soul.
Yes.
Uh,
And God.
And God. And the nirvana means dismantling of this material body. And like
Yeah, nirvana means no more movement of the mind. Nir means no. Mana means thought. No desire, no thoughts, zero.
okay. So
But if you have no desires, no thoughts, you're dismantling the body. Yeah, go ahead.
dismantling this material body. So that
No,
is
they're
also
being forced.
yeah. But is that also nirvana considered in Buddha's philosophy, or
No, that's called bad karma. Buddha's philosophy is you reject God, you reject the individual soul, you reject the spiritual world. So what are you going to achieve? You're going to achieve the flip side of material nature, which is avyakta. What is avyakta? There's nothing happening in it. It's a static state where you're not conscious of your individuality anymore. It's like sleeping, Yeah, it's unmanifest, yeah. Yeah.
Maharaj, Hare Krishna Maharaj, just to add to that, what will happen if somebody is living a true life of a Buddhist? They reject everything. What will happen to such people when they die?
They go into the avyakta state.
What does avyakta state mean, Maharaj?
There are 2 states in matter. There's the visible state and the invisible state. Avyakta is the invisible state, where everything comes to a complete stop. It's not spiritual. You're still in the material world. Mayavad philosophy is trying to attain Brahman, effulgence. So that is the beginning of spirituality. Buddhism is completely material. The modern scientists are also very similar to Buddhists. They believe there's only matter. The Buddhists reject the existence of the mind also, because if you accept that you have a mind, that means you're a person. Okay.
So in the avyakta state, you are still in this material world. The
Yeah.
soul is still there, but it doesn't have any body. But it's still in this material world.
Yeah, well, it's in a sleeping state, let's put it like that. Yeah.
But there's no material body anymore.
Well, there's no gross body. There's a
Gross
subtle
body,
body,
subtle body. Okay.
like a ghost, but it's asleep.
But another question was they reject the soul, so then there is after like dying there is nothing called a Vyakta stage for them as per them.
Well, no, they reject the soul. That means they can't reject it, like kill it. They're not conscious of it. They're asleep, basically, or like a ghost. They don't have a gross body, but they have a subtle body, which is covering the soul. Just like, let's say, you changed your pants, right? Now you forgot that you had $50 in the pants that you took off, and now you don't wear those pants for like 4 months or 5 months. Then you decide to wear the pants. You put your hand in the pocket and suddenly realize, oh my God, there's money there, right? You forgot about it. It was there, but you forgot about it. So in the same way, they completely ignore the fact that they have a soul. Why? Because they believe that they're not a soul, that they're just a body. Okay, that doesn't mean the soul is not there. It just means that they're not conscious of it. They reject it.
So basically the Buddha follower will reject all these things while living.
He has to.
And they consider that person will attain nirvana. I'm just trying to understand the other.
Yeah, but nirvana means basically it's like a ghost existence. You have there's still desires, but you can't satisfy them because you're rejecting you don't have a body, you don't have the gross body, you just have the subtle body. See? They're not exactly ghosts, but it's like being a ghost, let's put it like that.
Because I'm trying to collect information because one time I met one person and he said, yeah, I know about nirvana, and he was just talking a lot of things. I didn't have concrete thing to explain what nirvana he's explaining.
Nir means without, vana means movement of the mind. So, you stop your mind from moving. It means there's nothing going on. Right? Yeah. And you deconstruct the gross body. You want the air to go to air, the fire to go to fire, the earth to go to earth, like that. So you deconstruct your gross body. So you end up with this subtle body, and you deny the existence of a soul. So what happens? You go into this like sleep mode, while in the state of avyakta, where matter is no longer interacting, the time factor is not there, so everything is stopped. Now, of course, there's no suffering, but there's no consciousness also. So it's not really like, for example, let's say you go to a dentist and say, Doc, I never want another toothache. Do whatever you want. I just never want to. He said, you sure about that? I said, yeah. So he goes and gets a saw, and the saw's off your neck. You'll never get another toothache. But is that a solution, though? That's what Buddhism is. It's a radical thing.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, do you have time for another question?
All right,
Maharaj?
go ahead. Yeah.
So last night I was reading the story of like Mahabharata to my son, where they have the Draupadi episode where she's being de-dressed and like then she prays to Krishna. So my son asked me, Mom, if you surrender to Krishna, and you are in trouble like this, will Krishna come and protect you? So what I told him, I don't know if that's the complete answer, so I wanted to ask you. What I told him is, I am not a pure devotee like Draupadi yet, but I am a devotee. So Krishna will protect me. Like, I don't know if he'll come and appear and take away whatever situation that I'm in, but he will give me the strength to tolerate any situation, no matter what happens, and that way I don't suffer.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Is there anything else I can give him as an answer so that he can understand better?
Well, you have the story of Draupadi. That's proof. I mean, Krishna did not save her once; he saved her many times. You have to read more about her. You'll find out she was in trouble a lot, and he saved her every time. So we should, and other devotees. He saved Arjuna many times, and he saved, Dhruva Maharaj, Prahlad Maharaj. Right? There's so many examples of him saving his devotees, and he's promising that he'll do it. When it says Sarvadharman Pritya Jamami comes Saranamraja, Aham Tvam Sarva Pap Epyo Mokshishyami. He liberates you from all pap, from all sins. And it says, and therefore there's no reason for you to hesitate, doubt, or fear. And then he says in another verse, Konteya Pratijani Hinami Bhakta Pranashyati. He says, Arjuna declared boldly to the whole world that my devotee will never perish. He's promising to protect the devotee. So a very interesting thing happened yesterday. For the last 2 years, I've been meditating on, buying this property that's right next door. Right? So 2 days ago, the lady that owns that property called me up, and she said, "Oh, I heard you have a farm." I said, "Yeah." She said, "Can I go and visit the farm?" I said, "Sure." So she went to visit the farm. Then yesterday she called me up and said, I went to visit your farm. It was wonderful. I'm so happy. You have all those cows, and it looks like you're growing so many vegetables. She said, "I'm really happy I went." I said, I'm happy you went." She said, "My husband and I are thinking of putting our property on the market again to sell it. Would you like to buy it?" Out of nowhere. I've only spoken to her like 2 or 3 times. And that's because she comes every year to the, not Ananda Mela, but the Janmashtami, right? I've never called her up. I never asked her, "Can we buy your property?" Right? Out of nowhere, she came out and said that. Now, I don't know, I don't know if she'll accept our offer. I made an offer right away, but I don't know if she'll accept it. But the whole thing was very strange how it happened, right after Gaur Purnima. And I told her, "Look, we know more about your property than you do, I guarantee you." I said, we've been studying your property for the last 2 years. But I said, "Why don't we have a discussion?" He said, "Okay, I'll ask my husband if he wants to do that." So let's see what happens. But this is...
4 times they listed Maharaj and Gurgaon.
Yeah, of course.
3-4 times minimum.
Now, we know why. We
There are
know,
a lot of issues
we
there.
know why. We know all the issues. They don't understand the issue. We understand the issue. But that's why I want to meet her, because we will present to her the proof that it's not worth more than a certain amount of money.
The biggest issue is the entrance, so we cannot have builder. Because of that, our community, they build, right? So their house exceed the number of houses, like 99. They have limitation of city.
Yeah.
If you have to have minimum 2 gates to enter to the community, and we don't have to. Just one entrance from the
Yeah.
gate. So that is the restriction on that.
That's one. There's other restrictions
But
also.
that's I know.
Yeah. So let's see what happens. But it's very, very interesting.
Yeah.
I didn't solicit her at all, and it just came out of nowhere.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, what is the material world made out of?
Matter, M-A-T-T-E-R. Just like this copper, it's made out of earth, water, fire, air, ether, and space or sky. Those are the 5 gross elements. And then there's another 18 elements also. So if you want to know what all 24 are, I can explain it to you. Not now, but I'll give you a piece of paper that has all this information. Well, actually, no. You go to the Bhagavad Gita. You have your Bhagavad Gita, right? And you go to the seventh chapter, verse number, is it 5 or 6? Yeah, okay. No, it's, no. 1 second. Oh, I'm sorry. No, you go to 13th chapter, verse number 6 and 7. 13th chapter, 6 and 7, you'll learn the 24 elements. Okay? And those are the 24 elements of the material world. Hari Bol. All glories to Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Sorry it went so late.
Okay, you want to sing? Are you singing or what? You want to sing or no?
I'll be back in a few seconds.
It's okay, I can sing this one. Shri Guru Charana Padma Kevala Bhakti Sadbha Bandhamui Savadaya Bhate Jahara Prasade Bai E Bhavatori Ajay Jahara Prasade Bai E Bhavatori Ajay Krishna Prati Ho Jaya Hoite Guru Baka Padbhavakya Chitate Koriya Kya Guru Mukha Padbhavakya Chitate Koriya Kya Arana Goriya Mane Asha Shri Guru Charane Rati Aise Ulta Bhagati Shri Guru Charane Rati Aise Ulta Bhagati Jai Prasade Pure Sarva Asha चक्षुदान दिलो जे जन्मे जन्मे प्रभु से वेद विज्ञान हृदय प्रकाशित प्रेम भक्ति जहाँ होते अविद्या विनाश जते वेद गाय जहर चरित
Shri Guru Karuna Sindhu Adabhajarara Badhu
Guru Karuna Sindhu Adamadi Narabandhu
Lokena Lokera Jivana
Lokena Lokera Jivana
Ha ha Prabhu Khoro Doya Deha Bore Pada Chaya
Prabhu Koro Doya Deha More Pada Chaya
Ebigas Gusub Tribhuvana
Vijas Gusuk Tribhuvana
Srila Prabhupada Pita Pavana
Prabhupada Patita Pavana
Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada
Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada
Jaya Guru Deva Jaya Guru Deva Jaya Guru Deva Jaya Guru Deva
Jaya Guru Deva Jaya Guru Deva Jaya Guru Deva Jaya Guru Deva
Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Nityana Mire
Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale
Srimate Bhakti Vedanta
Swami Nityanamine
Namaste Saraswati Deve Guravari Pracharine Nirvisesa Sunyavadi Pashatari Shatarine
Namaste Saraswati Devi
Guravari
Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashatyadishatarine
Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Garadhara Shri Vatsarit Gaura Bhakta Brinda Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Do more. I think it's finished.
Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare
done spraying the thingy? Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Nittai Gora Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nittai Gora Hari Bol.
There was also table made custom with your height, Maharaj. That this Prabhu. No, no, no. Sanjay Gupta Prabhu. So he has made earlier when he used to for Damodar program. So he has custom made your height. He said that he measured your very height and then he made his own construct one table. You can try that also. I can figure it out. bought it last year, that house. So it's connected. If he got it and then you can just connect it to, it will be like huge place.
That'll be nice. That'll
Yeah.
be wonderful.
It's a huge place because at the center is Aishwarullah bought that property. So only the front side. ये पीछे वाली उसने लिया, आगे वाली जो है वो आदमी बात कर रहे थे, माँ आगे बात कर रहे थे.
What do Parag say to the chair?
Chair is okay. I think he needs table.